The CEO mocked the single dad's old pickup, not knowing he owned the factory supplying her company. The old blue pickup truck rattled as it rolled into the polished parking lot filled with luxury cars worth more than most houses. Heads turned. Some people laughed. Others pulled out their phones. Then a woman wearing a tailored designer suit folded her arms and smiled with open contempt. "Security," she said loudly. Someone's delivery driver parked in the executive section. The man behind the steering wheel looked at her, smiled politely, and switched off the engine. "I actually have a meeting here." Her laughter echoed across the parking lot. Little did she know that the quiet single father she was mocking owned the factory responsible for producing nearly 60% of the specialized parts her billion-dollar company depended on. And within the next 2 hours, everything she believed about success would be turned upside down. David Carter was never interested in expensive cars. His 8-year-old daughter Lily loved the old pickup because it still had the faded sunflower sticker her late mother had placed on the dashboard years ago. Every morning Lily would touch the sticker and whisper, "Mommy is riding with us." That truck wasn't just transportation. It was a memory. It was family. David could easily buy a fleet of luxury vehicles, but he never saw the point. After losing his wife to illness, he had poured his energy into raising Lily and expanding the small manufacturing business his father had started decades earlier. He believed respect was earned by character, not appearances. That morning Lily hugged him before school. "Daddy, don't forget my science fair tonight. I wouldn't miss it for the world. You promise?" "I promise." With a smile, she ran into school while David drove toward Horizon Dynamics, one of the country's fastest-growing technology companies. The company wanted to renegotiate a long-term supply contract. David usually sent lawyers or executives. But today he wanted to handle things personally. Not because of money. Because his late father had always told him, never forget the people behind the paperwork. Inside Horizon Dynamics, CEO Victoria Reynolds was famous for demanding perfection. She was brilliant, ambitious, and feared by employees. Her company had grown at incredible speed. But success had slowly built invisible walls around her heart. She judged confidence by clothing. She judged intelligence by watches. And she judged value by appearances. When she walked into the conference room and saw David carrying an old leather folder instead of an expensive briefcase, she barely hid her disappointment. "So you're the representative?" David nodded. "I own Carter Industrial Components." Victoria looked confused. "You own it?" "Yes." She glanced at her assistants and quietly whispered, "Interesting choice of wardrobe for a factory owner." Several people smiled. David simply sat down. The meeting began. Victoria immediately pushed for a massive price reduction. "We're your biggest customer. You need us more than we need you." David calmly opened his folder. "Actually, your production lines depend on our patented components. Replacing them would require redesigning your entire system." Victoria leaned back confidently. "We'll find another supplier." David nodded. "I wish you luck." The room became silent. One of Horizon's senior engineers nervously cleared his throat. "There isn't another supplier that can produce these parts at the required quality and volume." Victoria ignored him. She stood up and walked toward the window. "Mr. Carter, business belongs to people who evolve. Maybe if you spent less time driving museum pieces, your company would understand modern competition." A few executives laughed. David didn't. He quietly packed his papers. "I appreciate your time." He stood to leave. Victoria expected him to beg. Instead he simply walked out. 5 minutes later her operations director rushed into the room. "We have a problem." "What now?" "Carter Industrial supplies 58% of our production chain. If they suspend deliveries, 3 factories stop operating within 10 days. Victoria frowned. "They won't risk losing our business." At that exact moment David's phone rang. It was Lily's teacher. "Dad." Lily fell during recess. "She's okay, but she's asking for you." Without hesitation David turned his truck around. Business could wait. His daughter couldn't. He arrived at school to find Lily sitting with a bandaged knee. "I'm sorry I cried." He smiled. "Heroes cry too." She hugged him tightly. "Will you still come to my science fair?" "I promised." Across town, panic spread through Horizon Dynamics. Alternative suppliers couldn't meet demand. Prices doubled. Delivery times stretched to months. Stock analysts began asking difficult questions. For the first time in years, Victoria realized that confidence without humility could become dangerous. That evening, unable to solve the crisis, she researched Carter Industrial. She expected a giant corporation. Instead, she found interviews showing David talking about family values, employee education, and scholarships for workers' children. Another article revealed that every employee received profit sharing. Another showed David personally paying medical expenses for retired workers. Then she found a photo. David standing beside hundreds of factory employees during a holiday celebration. No luxury suit, no expensive watch, just genuine smiles. She stared at the screen for a long time. The next morning Victoria drove to Carter Industrial. Instead of marble floors, she found clean workshops filled with workers who greeted David by his first name. One elderly machinist smiled. "Morning, boss." David stopped to help him lift a heavy container. Victoria watched in silence. No cameras, no publicity, just respect. David noticed her standing near the entrance. "What brings you here?" She took a deep breath. "I came to continue negotiations." He nodded. "And?" She hesitated. Then, for perhaps the first time in years, she admitted something difficult. "I judged you before I knew you." The factory became quiet. David smiled gently. "My father used to say that steel becomes stronger after surviving fire. People can too." Victoria looked around. "Everyone here respects you. I respect them first." She lowered her eyes. "I forgot that success is built by people, not titles." David invited her to walk through the production floor. Workers proudly explained their inventions. Young apprentices talked about college scholarships funded by the company. Single parents shared flexible schedules that allowed them to care for their children. Victoria realized she had built an empire focused on numbers while David had built a community focused on people. Before leaving, David looked at his watch. "I have to go." "Another meeting." He smiled. "My daughter's science fair." Victoria unexpectedly asked, "May I come?" An hour later they stood in a crowded school gymnasium. Children proudly displayed homemade volcanoes and solar systems. Lily nervously presented her project. "Machines help people, but people matter most." She explained how factories worked because every worker was important. At the end she pointed toward David. "My daddy says the best leaders fix problems and keep promises." Victoria felt something she hadn't experienced in years. Embarrassment. Not because she had lost a negotiation. Because she had forgotten the simplest lesson of leadership. After the event she knelt beside Lily. "You have an amazing father." Lily smiled proudly. "I know." The following week Horizon Dynamics signed a fair long-term partnership with Carter Industrial. No impossible discounts. No hidden conditions. Instead they launched employee wellness programs inspired by David's company. Months later profits increased. Employee turnover dropped. Innovation improved. One interview changed Victoria forever. When a reporter asked why she now parked her luxury car beside an old blue pickup during meetings, she smiled. "Because I've learned that value isn't measured by what people drive. It's measured by how many lives they lift." David never replaced the pickup. Years later, when Lily graduated as an engineer, she drove it to the ceremony. The sunflower sticker was still on the dashboard. The engine still rattled. But everyone who saw it knew a simple truth. A person's greatest wealth is not hidden in their garage. It is revealed in their character, their promises, and the respect they give others. And sometimes the quiet single dad in the old pickup is the one carrying the strongest foundation of all.